But it is my concern with viewpoint diversity seeming to be fading in some places that you're going to miss some really critical articles that were done poorly that shouldn't have been published. So this particular article caught my attention, and I thought it would be a good way to talk about a topic, do a topic video instead of a response on something. Although I've got another article that I also want to bring up, which you might actually get 2 videos tomorrow instead of one. So I wanted to bring it up because it's kind of been a theme a bit of today, of this week rather, having to do with publishing. And I wanted to talk about it in part because I do think some of the things that go on, for one thing, because you're seeing a lot of woke shit show up in publishing, but also in published peer-reviewed articles anyway. But people also malign it a little bit and a little bit too much. But there is one aspect in particular, and I hinted about it in the video yesterday, where it was talking about, started talking about the notion of publish or perish. And for academics, for scientists, publish or perish is quite a euphemism because it has to do with how you advance professionally in a lot of fields. And this is true of both professors. This is one of the things they look at when they're gauging tenure. Whether or not you've met the requirements for tenure. For research scientists, it's a professional thing, making sure you're still producing in line with what you're supposed to be as a research scientist. You're supposed to produce research. Fair enough, right? So those kinds of things are there, but publish or perish is the euphemism because you either publish work or you ultimately lose your job. Is essentially what it is. And so I wanted to bring up some of the things about it, and I think this particular article on how to survive it in academia is actually a good take on it for those of you who are unfamiliar with the notion of publish or perish. And because, one of the big criticisms that I have with publish or perish is it unfortunately rewards quantity over quality. And just putting out a massive crap ton of papers, getting them published, doesn't necessarily mean they're all good. That said, this is what peer review is supposed to counteract, right? Peer review is supposed to counteract crap papers being published and hoaxes being pulled and all that kind of stuff. And as we've seen in the last few years, it can fail spectacularly. And so this is some of the things that I wanted to bring up. So, publish or perish, how to survive in academia. Publish or perish, the ultimatum is well known to academics. Publish original research or risk damaging your reputation or even losing a professorship. This is a very true thing. You've got to publish a lot of the time, and for depending on where you are, it depends on you could also be doing many other things on top of that. And like I said, you don't get paid for publishing. Your reward is in your professional development. It is not in a paycheck, because you'd never get a paycheck from a journal for getting something published the way you would for publishing a book. You don't get money for it. You have to put money in oftentimes. The phrase publish or perish dates all the way back to 1942, when sociologist Logan Wilson used it in a book studying academia as a career. At the time, he described the publish or perish credo as a prevailing pragmatism forced upon the academic group, and it still feels this way to many of today's academics and researchers. For those working within the publish or perish system, it can be a stressful lifestyle. Yes, it can. It can be very high stress. It's not just that it's publish or perish, it's also tied in with the grant things. Because for a lot of academics, yeah, the paycheck may say University of whatever, or X university, or whatever college. But in reality, for a lot of academics, for a lot of grad students, that salary is dependent upon somebody bringing the money to the university in terms of proposals and grants being awarded and what have you. And so the publish or perish goes also synonymously with, can you bring in money to pay for all these different things? And it is sometimes very, very strange and very, very difficult to get that to work. and is a very high stress, sometimes life cycle. Not only must academics publish to remain relevant, but doing so is a requirement, a key performance indicator at many universities. Publishing rates can be used to determine an academic's value at an institution, and they can play a role in determining who will be granted tenure. Indeed, this is true. It's like one of the measures for getting tenure at most universities is how much have you published over a certain period. And sometimes it's like 2 or 3 articles a year. And it's a heck of a process to get it all out there and done. So don't knock it. Like I said, peer review is not perfect. There's a lot of good stuff that is published. There's a bunch of bad stuff that is published too. And yes, I've highlighted it many times on this channel, but I do want to point out that not all of it is terrible. There is a lot that is, though, but not all of it is terrible. There's also a lot of really good stuff that gets published, even if you very much disagree with the conclusions of it. As you can imagine, the pressure to publish can be very high. Unfortunately, getting published is becoming more and more difficult, in part due to an increasing number of academics worldwide. Yeah, something I did this a while. Oh goodness, a while ago. I forget what the number is now, but I think the number of PhDs in the United States over the last it's increased by a pretty dramatic number in the last 10 to 15 years, the number of PhDs. And consider that a lot of them are getting their paycheck off of grant dollars, effectively, to their institutions and what have you, or from foundations. Consider that that's more people competing for those grant dollars. It doesn't last forever. I think it's going in an unsustainable direction to have that many PhDs, having a huge number of PhDs graduate. So there's that, but that's a whole other thing. Publisher Paris is often criticized by academics and researchers. In this article, we explore the advantages and disadvantages of the system, as well as the current state of academic publishing. Okay. So, let's see. What are the advantages, Confirms accuracy. Academic journals make a point of ensuring that all submitted research is rigorously reviewed by experts in the field. This process is time-consuming, but ensures that false information is not distributed. The Publisher Paris system then helps promote accuracy in academia by requiring researchers to submit to high-quality and peer-reviewed journals. Okay, yeah, that is one thing there. False information, though. Some of that I question because of the grievance study stuff, which is not really very accurate in a lot of things, from what I've seen, and operates on logical fallacies more often than not. So, sometimes I don't agree with that. But that is the point of what Publisher Paris. That's not really Publisher Paris as much as it's journal job to make sure that anything they publish is not crap. So I don't know about that being actually part of Publisher Paris, but anyway. Assures accountability, rather. The Publisher Paris system holds academics accountable to the public, ensuring that academics meet their goals and do research that will contribute to their fields of study. Thus, many view publishing as a moral requirement. Since the public funds universities, the research they produce should be accessible to the public. This is open access publishing. Okay, no, I could see that. Right now, a lot of stuff is not immediately accessible to the public, and again, that's something I actually very much agree with. When a lot of things is that any research should be open access. But the thing about it is, you gotta also pay the bills with the journal, is what I was saying. So there's things like you gotta balance that out. You gotta balance that out, but in the vein of communality. In the vein of the principle of communality, I would be for open access, and this is not communism. Communality is the normative principle there, whereby you basically say every bit of scientific knowledge belongs to everyone. Ensuring honesty, academics who publish know that their process and their research will be evaluated by other industry professionals and journal editors. This knowledge prevents them from cutting corners and encourages them to strive for accuracy above all else. Not always true, actually, because I know I've seen some articles in peer review that were not done very well and were done in a biased fashion. I have seen it happen in a few cases. No, and I've seen things which I thought were very biased get published. So it doesn't necessarily ensure honesty, but at least we try, right? Allows communication. Publishing research is an effective way to share findings with others in the field. Other industry experts can use previous findings. Yeah, communication. That is a bonus. Again, I don't know about that being publish or perish as much as just part of what you're supposed to do as a scientist. If you're doing communality and communicating scientific knowledge to all, you publish. Reputation builder. Yeah, that's another thing. Let's see. Inhibits idea development. One of the most common arguments against the publish or perish mindset is that it pressures academics into publishing too frequently, not allowing researchers to give their ideas a sufficient amount of time to develop. I can see that. You don't flush it out enough, and you're hurry to publication rather than flushing it out enough and making sure it's absolutely right. Academics are expected to publish. Increased pressure. Academics are expected to publish often. Like I said, it's like 2 to 3 articles per year in a lot of institutions, as publishing rates are often used as key performance indicator to measure academic success in institutions. Not only do academics need to publish often to stay relevant, but they also need to publish often to validate their research to their bosses. Yes. You got to make sure your bosses know that you're cranking out stuff. That's the professional side of things. Revokes control. Academics have very little control over the publishing process. Publishers control when pieces are read, reviewed, and published. Despite the lack of control, publishing has a direct impact on an academic's chances of promotions, grants, scholarships, and funding. Indeed, that is a problem. Well, no, not necessarily a problem. I mean, the publisher has a right to set the ground rules of how they're going to publish and when they're going to publish. They have the right to set that. Results in discrimination. Those who critique the publish or perish system often point out the flaws in how it operates. For example, women are less likely to be published than their male peers. Yeah, I'm going to have to go read those studies before I make a comment on that, because as I often find with some of the stuff that argues that it is a disparity that presumes discrimination, which is a logical fallacy, the disparity fallacy. So I can't comment on that for sure until I go read those, but we'll see. We'll see what that is. Promotes a for-profit business model. Another issue that concerns academics is the for-profit mentality of many journals. Research should be published because it will further a particular field, not simply because it is perceived as profitable. Yeah, you should be publishing for the sake of communicating stuff and getting it out there. At the same time, you want to say this is for profit, that's not necessarily it's a bit of a framing thing that I'm noticing here, that it's a framing for profit as being bad. And I don't have a problem with a journal making a profit, to be honest. I should like, as someone submitting the article, perhaps to get a cut of that profit. That might be a bit different. Actually pay the scientist who puts in their work for the amount of time that they put into it, but fine. So there's all of that. So that's kind of the ins and outs of publish or perish. A lot of journals do have really, these are old numbers because this is a pretty old article here, but a lot of journals do have a pretty high rejection rate. They do have a lot yeah, like this is old. This is 2015 that they're talking about. So this is 7 years old at this point. And so, you know, it does certainly have a problem. And my biggest concern with publish or perish is, and they kind of hinted at it in the disadvantages, is that it does go for quantity over quality and assumes that the journals, the editors, the peer reviewers are going to catch it if it's bad quality. There's 2 reasons why there's a problem with that. The first reason is that now, as you're unfortunately having a problem with viewpoint diversity in a lot of disciplines, your peer reviewing pool starts to become very centered in groupthink, or centered in a particular way of thinking or particular worldview, and the result ends up being, well, you can have something that probably shouldn't have gotten through peer review gets through peer review because of the fact that it pretty much confirms what is already known and what is believed to be correct, even though it was done poorly or what have you. That I think is lower down in terms of happening, but I could see it happening. Not saying that it is happening right now. I could see it happening. I can't say that it is happening right now. I have no evidence to support that. But it is my concern with viewpoint diversity seeming to be fading in some places that, you're going to miss some really critical articles that were done poorly that shouldn't have been published. The other aspect to consider is that as we're getting many more PhDs, many more people publishing, and in some fields where it's really, really small, there's not a whole lot of people there who are able to do peer review. And the problem with that then is, say you're really, really, really busy with your own stuff because you're doing research, you're writing articles, you may be teaching, you may be doing outreach kind of related stuff, you may be sitting on faculty meetings and what have you, or faculty committees or anything, number of things. And you get an article that comes to you for peer review. And it's just like, I don't have the time for this right now. So you do have an option when peer review comes to say to the editor, I'm sorry, I really don't have the time right now. I can't do this. And as a matter of courtesy, it's usually good courtesy just to offer to the editor, here's some other folks who I think can do the review. The other problem, though, that can happen is the person who's been asked to give a peer review may very well then come back and say, okay, I'll do it, not realize the amount of time they actually need to look at it, or not be able to give the amount of time that they should because of their own schedule, and therefore just glance through it and not really look at it carefully to ask questions, to pick out any potential problems, to question the methodology, to ask, to really, really, really give it a thorough review. And that's the other way that crap work can sneak by, is not because of any bad intent on the part of editors, reviewers, or journals, but it can slip by because peer reviewers don't have as much time as you'd think to sit down and do all the reviews that they do. I've had that temptation myself to just not do a good review of an article. So I'm kind of like, in an ethics standpoint, when it comes to reviews, just like, no, I'm gonna either, if I can't guarantee that I'm gonna give a good review, like a good thorough review of an article, I just tell the editor, I'm sorry, I can't. And then, I go on to do other things. And if I can give a good amount of time and read through an article and carefully, what have you, usually for me, it's like if I sit down and do it, I can do it in a couple of hours. Or I can do it, or sometimes it takes a whole day if it's a really complicated article, something like that. I can sit down and do it. But not everybody has that kind of time to be able to do that. And so that's why I get concerned. But anyway, that's the notion of publish or perish. I got one more thing I want to record tonight, so you're gonna want to record, so you'll get a good extra video, because I noticed something from Scientific American that caught my attention, and I cannot let it go. But that's it for now. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button on the way out the door if you like the video. Comment on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. And don't forget to come on over and join us on Locals. The Thursday review will return next week with a fun article. Philosophical Friday will return too this week with a little bit more commentary. Until next time, I'm Adrian. Stay curious, my friends.